Good morning. It's Bumper to Bumper from Atlantic Avenue all the way to the Elmhurst Tanks, an overturned tractor trailer on the westbound BQA.
Thank you, Spencer. It's 9 minutes after the hour. With us here in New York is Marshall Loeb, managing editor of Fortune magazine. Marshall Loeb, how do you think the market's going to look?
Publishing is a terrific business. It's on occasion an all-consuming business, but it's very dynamic. What you end up with every week or every month is completely different. And so you can see the product change. It's engaging, it's interactive, it's distinct.
If Dukakis wins and we have to produce those other 28 pages that are way behind, we're going to need editors and writers and everything.
We'll find your office. I'm available. Will you be on this floor?
If that's where you want me.
My family had always subscribed to Time magazine, and one hot summer day in St. Louis, I was reading a cover story in Frank Sinatra, and I was so taken by the writing, and at that point, I really thought I might like to grow up to be a writer. I kind of looked up and said, hey, this is a place I'd like to work.
We expect people to get right into the thick of it, to fully understand the business and their responsibilities. Certainly you get the guidance, you get support, you get help, you get encouragement.
Don, I wanted to talk to you about...
But you've got to take the initiative yourself.
I always felt that I might stick out like a sore thumb, and when I arrived, I didn't. I think my job's allowed me to express myself very comfortably here, and the great reward is that it's somehow come back into the material that I do at home, but I haven't had to edit my personality in any way, really. I feel that my social and my art life at home isn't denuded by my job. I don't think anybody in their right mind wants to work 365 days a year, 24 hours a day in their job. I think a healthy home life means a healthy job life.
It's very tough to be a parent. A female parent anyway, and work in the Time Life building. And there were times that I thought, oh good God, I shouldn't be here working these hours closing stories for Time magazine. But that was the mother my daughter knew, and I think if she were in this room right now, she'd say, ah, don't be silly, Mom, you were less boring because you were working here.
I grew up in Germany, came to this country in 1960. I had a fairly good training in Germany, but I felt when I came to Time, it was not quite adequate. I felt the relentless demand for quality as soon as I got here, and I had trouble meeting that demand in the beginning. But I adapted to it, and it worked out fine.
My beat is the One Family's Finances series. That's a series that runs every month in the magazine. It's a profile of a family or individual that has an interesting financial situation, which means that there's about $3,000 that somehow hasn't been accounted for. I wonder one thing, Timothy, do you get an allowance?
Sometimes.
I started with Time Inc. in 1951, and at that time there were practically no blacks at all in the entire company. That went across the board. It was very difficult for blacks to be hired, and I was hired simply because somebody I knew someone in personnel who, quote, took a chance, unquote, on me.
A guy came on the payroll 3 weeks ago, and his boss forgot to tell us. I was working for BS in education with every intention of teaching English. Math was my worst subject. I heard there was a job in the accounting department at the time, and I wanted to work for Time. Everybody wanted to work for Time. So I applied for the job, and I got it, and I immediately enrolled in an elective course in accounting.
I came back to New York. My girlfriend had left me. The guy who'd sublet my apartment had disappeared, owing me 2 months' rent, and it was snowing. And Dick Bergheim walked into the office with my resume and said, "Would you like to write a story?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "Here." And he handed me a story. And I wasn't expecting this at all. And I went upstairs and I read it, and I read the clips, and I started writing. And I stayed in the building 24 hours. I didn't go home that night. It's sort of a given. You give up 2 nights a week till midnight or more, 1 or 2. I feel sometimes like Charlie Brown with Lucy in the football. I always think that it's gonna get better. As I look at it right now, I'm gonna be there till midnight or 1 tonight, and it's Friday night. And I'm a little cranky.
Tuesday night, time to sit back, relax, and enjoy.
The biggest step, and in many ways the most exciting step for me in becoming a publisher, was the partnership that you have with your managing editor.
So we have this elaborate system of church and state. The editorial side is the church, and the publishing side is state. It exists to guarantee the integrity of the editorial products that we produce. The publishing side is responsible for the business of the magazine, for the overall financial performance, including the manufacturing operation and distribution. And the editorial side, or the church of this bicameral operation, is responsible for everything that goes in the magazine.
The integrity of editorial at Time is absolutely sacrosanct, and it's the one entity that is not changed to conform to research or somebody's opinion of consumer tastes. It's there because the editors believe it's the best, most interesting, and important information for that magazine.
You know, Henry Luce himself, when he owned the whole place, used to kid, only half seriously, that he couldn't get a story into a magazine. And to some extent, I find that still true. Further, which we don't often think about, the business people are quite immune from the editorial decisions. It's much easier for an ad salesman who works for Time Inc., if there's a story that's unfavorable to one of his clients, to go and say, listen, I can't control those editors in New York. You know how we operate Time Inc. Part of the genius of Time Magazine's creation was the notion of group journalism. Namely, that reporters, writers, editors would all work together to create a kind of synthesis of the meaning and importance of a story.
Like after his great victory on Tuesday, which I just see right now, maybe we should take the word great out.
There are really two important jobs of the editor-in-chief. The first is quality control, which is to help the managing editors and all of the staffs of the magazines to live up to their own standards, to constantly exceed them. And the second is to choose managing editors, because managing editors have tremendous authority inside Time Incorporated. They're really barons in the realm, and we give them enormous latitude to do what they think is appropriate to enhance the enormous success of our magazines. So that is undoubtedly the most important role of the editor-in-chief.
Running a big magazine is a lonely enterprise. We're able to provide a place to sit back and say, here's what's on my mind. And I think you would find out in the rest of journalism there are very few managing editors or whatever they're called at magazines who have that sense that they're part of a community.
The editor-in-chief, Henry R. Luce. So let's have a tremendous applause, please. Mr. Luce, what are your hopes and plans for life's future?
Well, we hope to cover every important subject. In our age, that of course means the wonderful progress of science and medicine, means the quest for peace, means the world's work and play, and all the lively arts like yours, shown us tonight. But today and always, the most important subject is people.
The idea is simply to get everybody working together to figure out what kind of stories should go in this magazine every week, and that's across the board, managing editor on down, writers, reporters out in the field, researchers in the office, everybody. What does America want to read about? What's a good story? I've got 8 sections that I run in the magazine, on the job, voices, sequel, song. And I have 3 writers I work with right now, and each of them is responsible for 3 of those. And the idea is to keep those sections fed. They've hired a lot of voodoo people over the years to study all these numbers, and they have done everything on these covers. They've analyzed the size of the type, where the People logo is, the size of the People logo, whether the image on the cover is a single image or a multiple image, whether the person is black or white, whether the person is alive or dead. What works? Royalty works. If Princess Di ever stops selling, I'm selling my stock options. I'm bailing out. The same with Fergie. The same, unfortunately, with death.
Then there was the time a few years ago when the 10,000 caribou went into the river up in Canada. A power company was dumping too much water and the caribou got in trouble because the river was high. I had to get to the Arctic Circle basically overnight, and they wanted the story by Sunday morning. I remember the sight of 10,000 caribou dead at the riverside was incredible, and I realized that with the phone lines bouncing off the satellites and such, we weren't going to be able to transmit the laptop through those lines effectively, so I booked myself on the only flight that night to Montreal, checked in, and we get the story.
The most challenging picture, I think, the 4-page photo during the celebration of Statue of Liberty. And we spent a lot of time looking for positions, and we found this particular position, and we did a lot of test shots to fit into the 4-page format. It will be, you know, the first time that Time Magazine ever did anything like that.
I've heard all about the legendary Alfred Eisenstadt.
Yeah.
So I come to you and I said, what should I do? How would you tell me? I mean, what do you have to tell me? After all, you've been here for a long time. In fact, you're the first one here.
Yeah, the most important thing is don't give up if you make some mistakes. You have to be, you shouldn't be conceited at all. You see, people ask me all the time, but you are a famous man. I say, I'm not a famous man, I'm one of the boys, I'm a photographer. I try always to do the difference, you know, what people always write about me is true. I like always to show the best side of people, not the worst side.
The objective here is less enterprise and a little bit more feeding or fueling the core property.
Publishers today operate as the chief executive officers of our individual magazines. The role of the publisher in working with his or her managing editor is to pull it all together and to first make sure that at any given time we have a clear-cut strategy for each and every magazine that in all of its activities enhances its competitive advantage.
Hi. I've been looking all over for this terrific video cassette I heard about. It's called Not So Great Moments in Sports. Like one scene is where Billy Martin tries to give an ump a shoe shine.
The publisher is like any other CEO of a manufacturing company. Like any business, you have a revenue stream. In the case of magazine publishing, you have two. One is circulation. The revenue is derived from subscriptions and newsstand sales. And the other is advertising. Circulation is a big part of the advertising revenue stream because the subscribers that the circulation department sells to have certain demographics. If you're selling Cadillacs, you're not looking for somebody that does not have some education and some income. If, on the other hand, you're selling sneakers, income is not as important, which is, of course, one of my jobs as publisher, to make sure that they're not working totally independently, that they're working together.
In addition to publishers, we have a wide variety of division heads who have an equal measure of responsibility for such functions as human resources, as our manufacturing and distribution department, our consumer marketing effort through our corporate circulation department. These are all critical functions.
I'd really rather not go into an overtime situation. Can't you give us some more flexibility so that we don't have to start presses on the overtime shift? We purchased the paper, printing, and distribution for all the New York titles, for most of Southern Progress, and for some of our joint ventures. We don't own any printing plants or paper mills, but we deal with about a dozen printers, about a half a dozen paper suppliers, truckers, air carriers, and very importantly, the post office. Our strategy has been to print in multiple locations in the U.S., and that has been to allow the closing schedules to be as short as possible between press startup and delivery of the magazine. Another piece of that strategy has been our Impact Center, which is our own in-house electronic engraving shop and transmission facility. 80% of all of our editorial pages go through that shop and are transmitted via satellite from this building to our printing plants.
Most of the images that you see in our magazines still are processed here. We are now able to include late-breaking news events in our magazines due to transmission of selected images that are processed in satellite labs across the world.
This is the picture collection, one of the departments in this division, and
It's got, I'd say, about 19 million photographs, give or take a few thousand, of course. The extraordinary thing about it is that you can find any of them in 20 minutes at the most, I'd say, and that's very unusual in the industry.
The circulation departments of all the magazines are found on one floor, and the trading and sharing of ideas, the acceleration of thought is so fast-paced. It's so quick from concept to implementation. Someone 4 or 5 years ago decided on the then radical concept that Sports Illustrated could be sold as a gift subscription to women who give SI as a gift to men. And we indeed tried it, not thinking that we'd get much of a result, but lo and behold, we're these days selling 500,000 gift subscriptions a year to Sports Illustrated. We are profit centers. Everywhere else, you'll find that circulation is a loss leader, and but here, we make a hell of a lot of money. I enjoy making a hell of a lot of money. I enjoy putting big numbers on the board. I just can't tell you how much fun it is to ride the crest of a wave that's really hot, and Sports Illustrated is one hot title right now, and boy, do I love managing it. My job is not to screw it up.
Your real selling begins when the client tells you no. The most important thing is understanding your client's product or business, knowing who the buyer is, and then taking that information to position Money Magazine as a viable medium for their advertising.
Was that your first time in Australia?
Yeah, that was my first time.
Oh,
thanks a lot. That was terrific.
Yeah, I wasn't sure since you were out of town.
What entertaining allows you to do is to get to know a decision maker in an atmosphere that's a little more quiet than in an office setting. When you can establish a different level of trust, there's a little more receptivity on the part of the client because they do know you. You have established some sort of relationship with them.
A good sales call is really like a good athletic contest. You have to anticipate, you have to know what they're saying, you have to know what they're thinking, you have to know what they're trying to accomplish. You can help them, but you can also lead them.
Well, to me, a magazine has a personality. It has a heart and it has a soul, and you need to understand what makes a magazine unique. In order to promote a magazine, you need to understand its contents. It's not the same ingredients that make your teeth whiter.
There are certain things that distinguish a career at Time Inc. From working anyplace else. And the thing that, frankly, has always made this as close to paradise as I think I can come, and I think I speak for at least the majority of the 4,500 people who work at Time Inc. magazines, is the association with an unusually intelligent, high-quality group of colleagues.
Time is a wonderful place for people to work, beginning with the fact that everyone's doors are open. Everyone begins on a first-name basis from the day that they come to work here. Criticism and healthy contention is valued. It is a meritocracy.
Time is committed to excellence, and we are really lucky because we are able to attract the best journalists in America, the best correspondents, the best writers, the best editors, the best researchers, the best art directors, the best. And I'm confident that we can keep it that way.
We are in the information and entertainment business. We are twice the size of our next largest competitor in dollars and cents. And frankly, when we cut through it all, the value we place out front of all others is doing things well enough to have a positive influence on the world in which we live.
What makes this company great, what makes our magazines great, are the people who work here.
The entire assets are creative, human, intellectual, the imagination of the people who work for the magazines. And it remains a kind of company where an individual can truly make a difference. Anybody who wants to participate in that adventure has really the sky's the limit.